Start the recording.
Recording in progress.
Peg, can you hear me?
Yep, we're about to start.
Hi,
Linda.
Peg.
We're about to start, Linda.
Hi. Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to the Easthampton City Council meeting for Wednesday, October 6th, 2021. The meeting tonight is being recorded and broadcast live via Easthampton Media on Charter Channel 193 and live streamed on Easthampton Media's YouTube channel. As always, we thank Easthampton Media for all of their hard work in bringing these meetings to you. All counselors and participants in this meeting are gathered remotely under an executive order by Governor Baker, which has been extended to April 2022, allowing us to do so. I remind both the members of the City Council and of the public to remain on mute until recognized by the chair. Also, for members of the public, please remove your camera for the duration of the meeting unless you are participating in public speak or if you are speaking during the public hearings. Thank you. This meeting is now called to order. Barbara.
Peg Coniff,
Here.
Salem Derby,
Present.
Erica Flood, Omar Gomez,
Here.
JP Kaczynski,
Here.
Tom Peak,
Here.
Dan Rist,
Here.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Here.
and Owen Zarin.
Present.
And we'll now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America,
To the republic.
to the republic
which stands
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
justice
with
for all.
liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 22nd?
So move.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the minutes of September 22nd. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Abstain.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Yes.
and Owen Zarin.
Yes.
Okay, minutes are approved. It is now time for public speak. For those who would like to participate in public speak on any topic other than what is in the public hearings, please remember that the City Council may only listen to your comments, but we cannot respond. We ask that you remain respectful and direct your comments only to the City Council. There is an icon at the bottom of Zoom called reactions. Under that, you can raise your hand and we will call on you in the order in which you have raised your hand, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. So, and we have a public hearing at 6:15. If we have enough speakers, then we will continue after the public hearing. All right, Cindy Mojica, go ahead.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here just to make an announcement from the Easthampton High School Heritage. We're celebrating Hispanic Heritage, and this coming Tuesday, we're going to celebrate our local heroes, and that include Senator Ana Gomez, Senator Sonia Chan Diaz, State Representative Carlos Gonzalez, our local Easthampton City Council Omar Gomez, Javier Luengo Carrillo from ACLU officers, from Easthampton Police Department, both of them are Puerto Rican, Maria Moreno, business owner, and Dr. Luis Valdez from UMass. So inviting all of the public in Tuesday, October 12th, 5 to 7, and the panel will start at 5:30 to 6:15. The students will have questions for them that has been actually pre-made at the Diversity Leadership Club. All the students have made all these questions at Easthampton High School. This will happen in Easthampton High School, the auditorium.
And Cindy, is that it's live in the auditorium or is it a Zoom?
Live,
Okay.
not Zoom. It's going to be live. We are required that everyone brings a mask, and just same requires in building that we have in place in all the buildings here in Easthampton.
Okay, great.
Madam
Councilor
President?
Kwasinski.
Thank you. May I ask a question about this?
Sure, if it's about that,
It's about the
informational
event.
for the public. go
Normally,
ahead.
we don't interact with anyone
Right.
during public speak, so I was asking for your permission.
If it's
Okay.
informational for the public, sure.
Thank you. Will there be any chance of having a Zoom join for the event for those who would like to do so? Is that something that could be looked into? If so, I would advocate for that.
Not at this time. We can offer that, not at this time.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. Anyone else from the public who would like to make a comment now? Liz,
Hi, I'm sorry, is this public speak? I joined late, or are we not on public speak now?
we are on public speak.
Okay, I would like to speak then, please.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Liz. I live in Ward 3, Tom Peaks Ward, and I would just like to read the statement that I wrote. I'm a bit concerned that the City Council is looking to extend the review of the Public Safety Committee's review of the Mayor's Pledge to Reimagining Policing. I saw that you were doing that, extending it in the notes. The Mayor's Pledge has been made available since April 1st of this year, and I would have hoped that it would have been considered a priority by this council and the Public Safety Committee, especially with elections approaching. It would have been beneficial to the voters to know where their councilors stood on the issue of policing in this town. I hope that each councilor will make time to make it a priority in the re-election campaign. I did read Councillor Zaret's proposed amendments to recommendation number 4, and quite frankly, I'm a little startled as to how tone deaf they are. Recommendation number 4 clearly states that a community-led engagements are what is needed, specifically noting that police-led engagements, such as Coffee with a Cop, are not effective in facilitating a better trust and understanding with police and the community they serve. Yet the councilor's recommendations are to continue with such liaisons. He even suggests that the police department hold a citizens academy with the supposed purpose to connect the citizens with the policies and the procedures of the police department. When recommendation 4 of the Mayor's Pledge to Reimagining Policing states that what is needed to create a mechanism for Easthampton community is to be part of a public safety decision-making process. So in other words, that the community should come together to be part of the process-making decisions and not to be trained as to what the police do. So when the council does find time to review the report regarding the Mayor's Pledge to Reimagine Policing, I hope that these recommendations are shot down. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Anyone else for public speak? Don Torrey. Don, you're on mute.
This is my first time on Zoom. Are you hearing me?
Yes, now we can hear you, Don.
Okay, I have a lot of questions on the Honeywell project. From what I've read, it's going to end up being a minus $191,000 per year for having this project. Is that correct?
Don, during public speak, we don't engage with.
Well, from what I've read, it's going to be a minus 191,000 for this project. And I don't know any homeowner that would take on a project that would end up with a net minus for what you're doing. I would be more inclined to seeing a solar field out on the property on Park Street that the city owns. I believe there's 13 acres there. And the current project looks like it's the most costly for the canopy behind the safety complex. So it is my opinion that I would not support this at all. I guess that's my only comment on that. The other comment I have is, why isn't there antibody testing for the school kids? We have $2 or $3 million from COVID, and I think that testing the kids that may have already had the virus and not even known it would be better than just giving them shots. And I think the money should be going to testing them and letting the parents decide. If they already have antibodies in them, then forget the shot. Those are the two that I have for now. And thank you for listening to me. I'm also running for mayor as a write-in candidate. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Don. Anyone else would like public speak? Okay, we're a little bit ahead of the public hearing. So we can move into communication from elected officials, boards, and committees. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment there? Councilor Zarek.
Thank you, President Coniff. Just quickly, as everyone's aware, this coming Monday is a holiday that was formerly known as Indigenous Peoples' Day, and the City Council voted unanimously to replace it. Formerly known as Columbus Day, and the City Council voted unanimously to replace it with Indigenous Peoples' Day. I am grateful for the support of the council. There was concerted effort to try to bring a celebration observance here to Easthampton, but fortunately, because this is happening so much across the state, a lot of the resources have been directed elsewhere. There's a huge celebration going on in Newton, and I have an email I could send out with other celebrations. One I'm just going to announce now, and then I'm going to turn it over to some of my other colleagues, is there is a celebration in Holyoke this Saturday at Carlos Vega Park in South Holyoke at 11:30. And obviously Easthampton residents and municipal stakeholders and representatives are invited to join. I was going to turn it over now to my colleague Omar Gomez to speak a little bit about the transition from Columbus Day and the importance of removing that holiday. And then I'd like also to invite my colleague Salem Derby, who is an Indigenous person, to speak a little bit about the land that we're on now.
Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Owen. Councilor Sarek. First, in 6 days, it's going to be 529 years that Christopher Columbus arrived to the Caribbean. 529 years. That day start the end of the era of the Taínos. Taínos suffer really bad from Christopher Columbus, and they exterminate the Taínos in the Caribbean. But just to recognize the Taínos, I just want to say a few words that we still use as a part of our language, including English. That's the beauty of the Taíno language, right? One of those words is hurricane, that came from the Taínos. And just to talk a little bit about it, because I get excited, right? Because I have some of that blood in my blood, because Puerto Rican is a mix of three races, black, white, and Taínos, is that when they draw the hurricane and cave and rocks and everywhere, they draw the hurricane exactly the same way that we still draw in the. They knew how the winds are coming from and the circle exactly where we still doing it. They have hammock. It's from hamaca that came from the Taínos. The papaya, the fruit, it came from the Taínos. The iguana, it came from the Taínos. And I can keep going because it's a few more words that we still use in it. But for me, it's really important that we change that. And I'm really glad that the state is touching these holiday and change the name, because definitely Christopher Columbus didn't do anything good to the Americas.
Thank you. Councilor Derby, did you want to make a comment?
and I'm hoping that we have time. Is it okay if this reading might go a minute or two over? Is that okay? I'll try to keep it.
Councilor Gomez didn't use all his 3 minutes. So
okay. So as some of you may know, I am a member of the Wampanoag tribe of Aquinnah, which is on Martha's Vineyard. And I think it's important for us, especially at this time, to recognize the other tribes that are in our area. And so I have a land acknowledgement. And I will say that this was put together by Rhonda Anderson, Margaret M. Burchak, Laurel Davis Delano, Lisa Brooks, and the Native Land Digital. And so this is a land acknowledgement for the Middle River, Connecticut Valley. I want to recognize that this land that I am a guest on and this land that I am benefiting from is a territory of the Sokoke, Abenaki, part of the Wabanaki Confederacy, the Patumkuk, the Nonotuck, the Nipmunk, and the Agawam. Sokoke means people who go their own way. Sokoke are still here and are a state recognized tribe in southern Vermont. Pocumtuck is a Mohican Pocumtuck word that roughly translates to people of the narrow swift river or people of the swift clear stream, meaning the Deerfield River. The Pocumtuck are not gone. They are absorbed into their kin of Mohican, Abenaki, and Nipmuc peoples. Nipmuc means people of the freshwater, and they are a state recognized tribe in Massachusetts. The Nipmuc Nation has a reservation in Central Mass that has never been out of tribal hands. The Nonotuck means the oxbow part of the Connecticut River, and local kin also absorbed the Nonotuck. Agawam roughly translates to low marshy lands, the present-day Springfield area of the Connecticut River Valley. We are in the watershed of the Cointuqua River or Connecticut River. Cointuqua means long tidal river. It is important to remember that while indigenous communities have lived, gathered, farmed, hunted, and fished in the area for thousands of years, they are still here. In addition, I want to recognize the valley's many neighbors, indigenous nations who survive and still exercise sovereignty. The Nipmuc Nation, the Chab-un-Gunkamog Nipmuc, the Massachusetts at Ponkapog to the east, the Aquinnah Wampanoag, the Chappaquiddick Wampanoag, the Herring Pond Wampanoag, the Mashpee Wampanoag, the Seekonk Wampanoag, and the Narragansett to the south, the Mohegan, the Eastern Pequot, the Mashantucket Pequot to the south, the Stockbridge Munshee Mohican to the west. Mohican translates to people of the waters that are never still, meaning the Hudson River. War, genocide, dispossession, and colonization pushed the Mohican, Stockbridge, and Munsee tribes west in the late 1700s through the 1800s to Wisconsin, where they have a reservation today, and Menominee territory. The Mohican tribe has an office in Williamstown, New York, and land in Troy, New York to maintain their local ties. The Abenaki Nation of Missisquoi, St. Francis Sokoke Band, and Nulhegan Abenaki to the north. We respect the sovereignty of these and hundreds of other indigenous nations that survive today, and we pledge to support the rights of these nations and interests of indigenous peoples. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Derby. Councilor Gomez.
Just less than a minute. Thank you, Madam President. On October 16 at 11 a.m., the Worcester Red Sox, are coming to town to do a clinic to the youth and the kids. It's from 8 to 17 years old. And Nonoto Park at the hub, that we call the hub, is where we have the 2 baseball fields and 2 softball fields. They're going to bring the mascot, so the kids going to take picture with them. I have to say thank you to the mayor for making this connection between me and them. And again, it's going to be October 16 at Nonoto Park, 11 a.m. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll take a motion to open the public hearings.
So move.
Second.
Motion second to open the public hearings. Any discussion? Barbara?
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Hi.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Aye. Okay, public hearings are now open. We have some appropriations, a transfer, and some other discussions. We'll start with Councilor Rist for finance and the supplemental appropriations.
I would gladly do so, but I was absent, so I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Gomez.
All right, Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, councilors. So the first appropriation is going to be for matching $19,000 for the AFG grant to replace all outdated hoses and nozzles, as well as purchase a hose rack to keep the spare hose on. At the Finance Committee, we vote to approve this request. The AFG is Assistant Fireman Grant, and the last time that we replaced that equipment, I think that was 1987. This equipment is last for 20 years, and is outdated. And if we want to keep our city safe, I think it's time to buy it. And by the way, we only gonna if we approve it, it's gonna be almost $5,000, and the total cost is $19,000. So we have the fire chief here. With the permission of the president of the council, I will allow him to add anything else if he want to.
Sure. Chief Norris?
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Councilor Gomez, for that. As Councilor Gomez alluded to, back a year ago when we conducted an initial needs analysis of the department, one of the primary things that rose to the top was the need to replace a bunch of fire hose. The hose that's being replaced was manufactured in 1977. And with that, when we looked at some of the national standards, basically anything manufactured prior to 1987 is supposed to be taken out of service. So with that, we generated a federal Homeland Security grant. That grant was awarded to us about 2 months ago. And again, this is that matching amount to go towards that grant to replace that hose.
Okay. Do any counselors have any questions of Chief Norris? Does anyone from the public have any questions or have any, I'm sorry, any comments regarding this appropriation? Okay. Councilor Gomez?
I move that the city appropriate the sum of $4,900 from Cannabis Stabilization to equipment to fund the required match of $19,000 FGA grant to replace all outdated hose and nozzle, as well as purchase a hose rack to keep the spare hose on.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the appropriation for the new fire hose. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kuzinski,
Yes.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Yes.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Yes.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
So the second appropriation came from the Cannabis Stabilization Funds too. By the way, that's what it's for. One of the reasons that we have this money from Cannabis to use it for this kind of equipment is to buy a new ambulance. The fire chief filed a grant and they approve it. The ambulance will cost $261,000 with $904. And since we have, and pretty sure we have an ambulance that is more than, they have more than 100,000 miles. And the second one, there's the newest ones, there's the day number one. We're having a lot of mechanical trouble, and it's a time to replace it. Again, we have the fire chief here that he can add anything else of any other councilor have any question to him.
Chief Norris?
Again, thank you. So again, as part of that needs analysis, we also looked at, in addition to the equipment, the vehicles, and certainly the two things that rose to the top were the need to replace two of our ambulances. Those two ambulances both have over 100,000 miles on them. This grant was written to replace our oldest one with the most mileage, which was the vehicle itself is a 2010. And the actual body itself was remounted at that time. The body for this vehicle is actually manufactured in 2000. So you can imagine some of the changes in safety and design and technologies over the past 21 years. The grant was written, it was awarded to us for a sum of $275,000. And this $13,000 is that match that will go towards the $261,000 that will be federal monies.
And
Okay.
to add a little bit more, if I remember well, we're going to use the stretchers and all the equipment for the old ambulance to the new ambulance, right?
Yes, that is correct. We recently made some modifications to it, and all of that equipment is able to be transferred over to this new vehicle to be used on that when it comes in.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Anyone from the council who has any comments or questions of the chief? Councilor Zaire.
Just quickly, and you can tell me if it's not germane to this conversation, President. How far behind, Chief, are we with the other? You said we have two that are over 100,000. How far behind are we looking at having to replace that?
So what you'll see later on tonight is another appropriation request for replacing that second one. And really by purchasing, what we did is by purchasing these two at the same time, at least that request to purchase two at the same time is trying to leverage that purchase in volume, thereby saving the city additional funds purchasing two at the same time. along with this grant award as well.
Anyone else? Any questions of the chief? Anyone of the public who has any comments? Okay, Councilor Gomez.
I move that the city appropriate the sum of $13,095.24 from the Cannabis Stabilization to the FEMA AFG new ambulance. This fund will be used as part of the required match for federal grant in the amount of $261,904 for the purchase of a new ambulance.
Second.
Motion is second for appropriation for the grant match for new ambulance. Any further discussion? Councilor Peak.
I'm going to vote for this, but it just occurred to me right now. What is the balance right now on the Cannabis Stabilization Fund?
See, City Treasurer Jen Gallant, do you know that answer? I think you're here. Hi, Jen.
Yes.
Sorry to take you off guard, Jen. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yes, I am here. And if you give me 1 second, can tell you that amount.
Well, if it's quick, sure. Otherwise, if you want to.
I'll pipe back in when I get it, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks.
Do you, let me back up. Councilor Peak, do you want to know that before we vote?
It won't change my vote. It's just the sort of thing that I like to keep track of. And
Okay.
I realize that I've not done so in this particular case.
Okay. All right. If anybody would like to pause before we vote until Jen can get that number, otherwise I will take a motion, or we have a motion. We can vote now, unless, okay, let's vote. Robert?
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Yes.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Yes.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Omar Gomez.
I know I was
Okay.
having trouble with my mouse.
Okay. Motion passes. Next up, Councilor Gomez.
Yes, the third one is gonna be $49,586.95 to transfer for the PEC Access Receipt Reserve account to be used to the cable-related expenses. Probably Council President can add more than me because she was part of the Easthampton media. But basically, this is to pay the bills that we have to transfer this money to Easthampton media. That way they can pay the bills.
Right.
The way they did in the past.
Right. So our contract with the cable company requires that for the number of subscribers that they pay us for PEG access, a dollar amount per subscriber. That money comes into the city and goes into an account. Quarterly, I believe, we take that money out and we send it over to Easthampton Media into their, we write a check basically and send it over to them. And it is this money that Easthampton Media runs all of the programs that they do throughout the year. So quarterly, roughly, they get $50,000 from the cable. So it goes, the city is essentially a pass-through. So that's what this appropriation transfer is for. Any questions from anyone on the council? Any comments from anyone from the public? Okay, Councilor Gomez.
Okay. I move that the city appropriate the sum of $49,586.95 from the PEC Access account to the PEC Access account to give approved to spend from the PEC Access Receipt Reserve account for cable related, consistent with franchise agreement.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the interdepartmental transfer. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Owen?
Sorry, aye.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Jen, I see your hand up. Do you have the number for us?
Yes, I do. So after the 298,000 and the 97,000 that are for this public hearing, we're looking at a balance of $840,000 in the cannabis stabilization account.
Okay.
Just to
More,
clarify,
Jen, hang on. Jen, is that effective as receipts from up to what date?
That is effective only of receipts through June 30th.
Okay.
Because I haven't gotten the September 30th statements yet.
Okay, so do you get them quarterly?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Counselor Rist?
I assume you meant the appropriation that's up to be, that's in new business for the second ambulance?
No?
No, I was
We're
only
talking about the balance of cannabis that Counselor.
I understand, but you said 298,000?
I was talking about, I was just looking at the agenda.
Oh, I see what
The
you're
amount.
saying.
Yes, that's what I was talking about. On the agenda, there is an
Oh,
item
okay.
that
The
hasn't
other
been approved
appropriation,
yet, but it would
once
be,
approved in 2 weeks.
yes, okay. Thank you.
Did I see any other hands from any of the other counselors? Okay. All right, so that concludes the appropriation and interdepartmental transfer portion of the public hearings. We're now going to talk about the Public Safety Committee's report on the mayor's pledge to reimagining policing. Counselor Gomez.
Thank you, Madam President. Me again. I want to start saying that this report, I was part of the group, the original group that the mayor appointed, and as a city councilor, this was my priority. It was, and it still is. Sometimes didn't look like that way because when it's something that is so serious and is huge, we had to take time to do a good job. After saying that, I want to read the introduction. As a member of the Public Safety Committee of the Easthampton City Council, we were charged to review the Mayor's Pledge Work Group recommendation and hear testimony from the public and those who were involved with its creation. The Mayor's Pledge, created by Brothers Keeper under the Obama Foundation, was signed by the Mayor Nicole Chappelle on June 3rd, 2020. The Reimagining Policing Pledge is a call for the mayor and local officials to review and reform use of force policies, redefine public safety, and combat systematic racism within law enforcement. Systematic racism is not unique to the police department. I'm going to say that again. Systematic racism is not unique to the police department. We're still living in the aftermath of the evils of slavery and segregation, where public policies, institutional practices, cultural representation, and other norms work in various, often reinforcing ways to perpetuate racial group inequity. Systematic racism is not something that a few people or institutions necessarily choose to practice. And I'm going to repeat that again. Systematic racism is not something that a few people or institutions necessarily choose to practice. Rather, it has been a feature of the social, economic, and political system in which all exist. The first step to dismantling racism is to acknowledge that it exists. We're grateful to all our community members who came forward to give a public testimony. It is clear that the members of the public feel divided on this topic of policy. This is no surprise, as the national landscape that support this report in highly charged and volatile, and rightly so. An extreme ends where assumption that all police are bad and that any change in the police's scrutiny of the Easthampton Police Department is an attack of the police. It also became clear that there is not enough data and sharing of data to have substantive conversation around areas of bias, police oversight, or policy changes. Many members of the public, the police, and those involved in the conversation expressed that if we really want to do and be better, we need to be collaborative. We need to begin to understand our neighbors' perspective, and we move forward as a community to actually solve the issues that we face in Easthampton. The city of Easthampton has the opportunity to be proactive in working with our police department to create more transparency around data, practices, and oversight in the efforts to build trust with the community and work toward eliminating bias. As a member of the Public Safety Committee, we're in an advisory role and can affirm and recommend action and policies that in that capacity, we would like highly the recommendation that we feel are most relevant and impactful, as well as recommended action steps. And then we have the recommendation that I don't know if Madam President, you want me to go one by one because it's a long document. I sent that a couple weeks ago to every single council. They have enough time to review it, and I'm open. And I'm open to receive questions, and I'm open to let the other council from the public safety to answer if they feel they have to.
Councilor Gomez, I would like, for the purpose of the public, I would like you to, at the very least, walk through, just tell us what the recommendations are in the order that you have. We don't need to go through all the action steps, but if you could say, you know, the number one priority is this, what it is, and then 2, 3, and 4, and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
Councilor, hang on. Councilor Kwasniewski.
I was wondering if it's at all possible to put up a visual of the report or of the action steps so that in addition to the verbal report, we'd have something that folks could look at.
Can you, do we need somebody to share it?
Allow me, Madam President.
Please.
Thank you, because I have it in paper.
And Councilor Gomez, just while he's doing that, I see the very first one says recommendation 2. Did you have them in a different order and you moved that one to the front, or is that a typo?
No, it's not a typo. What we find out at the committee is the recommendation 2 for the original report. I think we should be number 1. That should be the priority.
Okay.
You want me to keep going?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure that they weren't out of order or typo. Councilor Riss, can you just scroll? The page before it is what we need to start with.
Oh, got it.
Right there.
Sorry.
Perfect. Right there.
My apologies.
No worries. Okay.
So yeah.
So go ahead. If you just want to just read the headline.
Yes, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to do that. You know that I love to talk. So yes, what we believe as a committee is that we should start with the data, with the data collection, analysis, and regular reporting. For the committee, I think it's really important for us to start with that because data, it shows how the department is working, right? And that's what we put in number 1 instead of having something else. Okay. And when we have some recommendation, like the Easthampton Police Department joined the Police Foundation Police Data Initiative, and being a partnership with the Westfield State University, Criminal Justice Department, that I think we can create a relationship, a really good relationship with them, and probably we can save some money there to the constituents. But basically, that's the idea behind it. That's what we say. We put number 1, that recommendation, the data, because data will show and guide us to the right direction.
Okay.
I'm just waiting because I don't know if you want to let.
Can you scroll down?
Lindsay has her hand up, Madam President.
Can we just get through this first and then we can come back for commentary?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh. I just want to get through these 4 things. We don't have to talk about them yet. Just what are they?
Yes. Okay. So that was the recommendation 2, that is going to be number 1. And recommendation number 1, that is going to be recommendation number 2 from us, is the invest in community-led non-police responding health and safety concerns, right? And I know that the police department now have a CSO as a kind of part-time, which we share with another town. But what we want is the police department to engage and invest in more of that. That's recommendation number 2, community assessment of needed resources, engage with the Board of Health, that I hope we approve next time, a new position that probably is going to respond to that we talk at the Finance Committee last time we approve it. I hope we have a new position that we can work with someone that also have a gun to respond to a lot of cases like mental health, drug addiction, domestic violence, and related incidents. So that's going to be our recommendation number 2.
Okay.
Recommendation number 3, strengthening oversight. And we recommended that the step like create an independent review committee to receive and investigate complaints, identify alternate city department to receive and investigate complaints, and hire independent civilian investigators. So what we want is to create more a department more transparent and more accountable to the constituents. And we want to that's what the recommendation creates, an entity that is dependent, that is going to be independent to review the complaints to the police department. That probably some of the recommendation being covered with the new reforms is possible, but when the new reform was coming to be in place, we will be working at the same time with this recommendation. So if probably Officer Grip is going to be here, or the police chief is going to be here, probably they're going to say that we already covered that, is because the police reform is going to be was at the same time at the state level when we were working on this. Recommendation number 4, engage in intentional regular communication and collaboration with the community to understand and codify safety needs and develop response, right? A community engaged process, identifying data needs analysis. Most of the time came to the data. We want to create, and this recommendation, what we want to do is create an open data team compromise of the community residents, police administration, and the city council members to work together with, again, example like a Westfield State Criminal Justice. And recommendation number 5, examine police culture and training. We want to work with invite members of the impacted communities to design police training curriculum, adopt policies prohibiting by officer or recruiting funds found to have been associated with white supremacists or hate of group from remaining or being hired by the Easthampton Police Department. And recommendation number 6, and I jumped one. I'm pretty sure it's recommendation number 4, that we want the police department to come to the public safety committee to give us report quarterly. Report out how many times they're taking, all the information the community needs to feel safe, that the police are being well equipped and trained, and we're going to invite them to do so, the police safety. And then the last one, educate and inform the Easthampton community about revised use of force of policy. Develop an accessible one-page summary of changes to use of force policy and distribute it widely to the community and post, I don't know how to say that in English, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry, on the website. So as basically to be more engaged and be more transparent to the community. Okay. Any questions?
So I think first let me go to Councilor Rothschild. She's had her hand up for a bit. So Councilor Rothschild.
Hi, I just wanted to add on to what Councilor Gomez has said. I wanted to say that I've already, and it's in the packet, and just for members of the public that might not see it, I've already had some ongoing conversations with Dr. Lisa Barrow. She's a criminal justice professor at Westfield State, and she authored a huge study on the climate of policing in Hartford. It wasn't a relationship with the community so much as climate within their workplace. But I spoke to her about building some kind of sustainable relationship with our town that was mutually beneficial to us, collecting data and sharing it, and also to their student body. And they are really excited, Westfield State, to work with us, and followed up with a letter of intent. And so I think this is just a really great opportunity to learn more and share data. So from that, in our committee, we just talked about so many of these recommendations really are based on data. So any kind of policy changes or any kind of, building like real dialogue with residents and police together needs to revolve around asking questions together, coming up with research questions, coming up with what we want to know, what does safety mean in a community? How do people experience policing? And come up with these questions together and do research together and approach it with openness and discovery. So, and then action as a result. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Rothschild. So I don't know how the council would like to go through this. If you'd like to go one by one and really do a deep dive into each scenario, or if you just want to ask questions of Officer Gribby. Actually, sorry, Officer Gribby, I don't know if you're an officer or a sergeant or a captain. So
Sergeant.
Sergeant. Let's make sure we get that right out there.
My name's Kyle.
Hi, Kyle. We'll go with that. So I don't know, counselors, how do you want to hear from Kyle first, or how do you want to go about this? I'll leave it entirely. I'll follow whatever lead you guys want to do. Councilor Brisk?
I just have a question. First of all, Madam President, you want me to leave this up?
Please, yeah.
All right. This oversight, I have a question of Councilor Gomez. You indicated that you developed this prior to the post-commission being developed by the state. Am I hearing that right? So it may be redundant to what the state has? I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
It is possible that it's redundant. And in a few recommendations, because when we start working on this, the state was working on their version of the police reform, and could be redundant in a few places.
So my question is, did you envision any of this, like the review committee or the independent civilian investigator having any authority to do anything, or are they just making recommendations? I'm not sure what this committee would do. I'd like to hear a little more in depth about what all of this meant if it were to happen.
Lindsay, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I just want to, this is recommendations that go to the mayor's office. So we don't want to be too limiting in what we're saying. The essence and the intent of this recommendation is that there's a third party that receives and reviews complaints. Because right now, there's not a place besides sending complaints to the body you're complaining about, which doesn't feel, safe. So that we've given different options of what that might look like. And we don't want to be too restrictive. The basic essence that we're recommending to the mayor is that there's an independent review committee. But I don't think at this level, at this point, it still goes to the mayor that we're making such prescriptive, we're not prescribing that detailed at this level. Basically, we were going through the huge report that was there. There's a lot of great stuff in there and a lot of stuff we want to do. And we were trying to prioritize it and put it into like things that were actionable and prioritized for our city.
So I have a question, and I don't know, and I'll get to you in a second, Councilor Peak. So, and I don't know who can answer this, but so if this is just, and I don't want to say just, but if this is a recommendation to the mayor, of things that your committee and subsequently the council's affirmation of that goes to the mayor and says, these are the things and the order of the things that we think need to take place. We're not being prescriptive about what you do to achieve these things. How much engagement will we continue to have throughout that process? I mean, conceivably, you know, do we want to have any sort of, not say, but are we, if we say we think data is the first thing you need to go after, and we have in here the Police Foundation's Police Data Initiative, I don't know what that is. If the mayor and whoever that mayor will be has a different direction to go get data, we're not saying you have to do it this way. We're saying you just have to do better with data. Is that fair, or is there some sort of parameters we want to put around this to make sure that all the work you guys did to hear through what the priorities are actually gets taken care of? So I don't know, that may be just commentary. I don't know if there's something to respond to. How do you see this playing out, I guess, is my question.
I think your statement, because I take it like a statement, was more, there was a bunch of questions too, right? One is, what is going to happen after? So it's up to the mayor, whoever the mayor is going to be, right? How much engaged we're going to be is, I don't know. That as a elected official is how much we're going to be working with the mayor to see if this is going to happen. That's the first one. It's up to the mayor, because at the end, this is going to be only recommendation. We don't have the power to tell the mayors, do this first, do this second, or do this third. Why we recommend data first is because I think we should know exactly what is happening inside. When I say inside, what is happening in the department. I don't want to sound like an aggressive way inside. I just want to, we want to know what is happening at the department. That way the mayor have a better view of the department and start working with what is going to be the first, where they find out on the data. I think that's what the data is going to be the first one. It's like we want to know how much information, how bad is the system, how bad or how good is the program, how accurate it is. If it is not accurate, so we have to put money in a new system to be more accurate and to have more information for the police department. That's why the data is going to be the number one in our views.
Okay, Councilor Peak.
I think I just got a lot of my questions cleared up, but just to reiterate for my mental health, what we're basically doing tonight is voting in a very similar way to what we did with the housing production plan. We are basically voting to accept a report. And in doing so, we are voting to say that we, the council, agree with this report. And in doing so, we're also communicating that if the city needs to come to us for resources to make these sort of things happen, we, the council, have signaled that we are in favor of these things, and we'd really like to see them done. But that ultimately a lot of this stuff is really kind of an executive prerogative. And so as such, it's okay if we so when we're talking about the state bill, right, the state bill is starting a police oversight committee, and what we are saying is that we want a police oversight committee, and if the mayor finds that what the state's doing will fill that role adequately, then great. And if the way that goes down, it doesn't seem like that's the case, and that we actually need to look at a municipal or a regional solution, then we encourage that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, so I'll take this all in that context.
And can I add just a little bit more, Madam President?
Please.
Just for the clarification and just to refresh everybody's head, when the pledge group, the mayor's pledge Reimagining policing group send the report to the mayor, she didn't have to send it to us. But she sent it to us, the mayor sent it to us to give us another pair of eyes and to take a look of that report and to have some input from the public in general. And that's what we do at the public safety. We open it to the public, we listen to the public, and we prioritize what we believe should be the first in that report.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councilor Gomez. Are there any other councilors who have any questions on this? Councilor Zarek.
Mostly for the sake of the public, but also for my own edification. First of all, I really want to say quickly, I really commend all of you for this process and this report. I sat in on a few meetings, watched some others recorded. This was incredibly difficult and onerous task. There's a lot to take on, in terms of trying to be neutral and just receptive to the public feedback here. And I think this happened organically and occurred in the time that it needed to occur. And so thank you to all the members of the Public Safety Committee. Certainly thank you to the members of the public that engaged, and then all the other stakeholders that participated. I was trying to understand while watching the process, and where exactly, because a lot of these policies are either executive driven through the mayor, or they actually fall on the police to have to draw up and enact these policies, just in the way that a lot of our police policies work now. Where during the process, and was it during drafting these recommendations, was it done kind of in concert with the police? Was it done kind of under advisory with the police? And did they, at what point is this handed to them to make any input or recommendations? Did that happen already? And that's partially for me and also partially for the public, because I'm also trying to understand the kind of what happens next piece of this. And again, thank you. This is great. I think this is fantastic. And I especially appreciate the input about the partnership with Westfield State University for a variety of reasons. So that was a great idea.
Councilor Rothschild.
I mean, I just want to say that the mayor's pledge, first of all, the process with the original committee interfaced with the Easthampton Police Department, and the consultant we had, Professor Nicole Hendricks, interfaced with the Easthampton Police Department. We had public hearings where everyone was invited and people spoke, including people from the Easthampton Police Department. And these recommendations aren't supposed to be drafted with the Easthampton Police Department. The mayor's pledge comes out of a community need to stop systemic racism, and this needs to be community-led and community-driven. So in terms of writing this specific report, no, this is based on community feedback. And I think that's appropriate.
So is it fair, Councilor Rothschild, that really the recommendations that are in bold are the key, what you and the committee and the public in feedback that you got helped you prioritize 6 things that were already in the mayor's pledge, but now we are reprioritizing them a little bit based on your feedback that you got. And then the recommended action steps are just kind of ideas, thoughts, and, kind of some ideas out there, but the mayor ultimately will take this report and kind of take whatever action steps he or she, depending on if it's next year, decides to take. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. But I would say these recommendations are right from the mayor's pledge report. We didn't, those bold things were authored in the mayor's pledge report.
Right.
What we are trying to do, because there was so much in there and so much great stuff to do, but reality is we want something to come out of it. So we just wanted it to be more like, we wanted to put in action steps, like what can I do, like distill through all the recommendations in the mayor's pledge to like the next steps. And it doesn't have to be in order, by the way. We just said data is key, but that doesn't mean don't work on these other topics till you have data, because you can still start working on them. So I think the bullet points are actually where we kind of distilled where here's an action like we think is realistic that our city can take. We, you know, there's a lot of things in there that would be great to do, but we don't have the resources, we don't have the time, you know, so you just have to pick and choose what you're going to do as a city. So that's how we tried to look at it. And I think whether it's dead and, you know, one wants to give it to the mayor if it's dead or not, I think the public safety committee can keep returning it to their agenda, like maybe a quarterly check, like give us a report on how you're doing on our recommendations. And, you know, I think there could be some accountability. We don't have power per se, but we can hold people accountable and question them on their actions. So I would advocate for that.
Right. And I think somebody mentioned it earlier that this was an ask of the mayor for you to do this, to get feedback.
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. Desiree, I see your hand up. If you are really Kyle, I can let you speak. If you're Desiree, I'll have to wait a second.
No, I have my, that's her.
Okay, so hang on, Desiree, until we open it to the public. Lindsay, your hand's still up, but I assume that's just left over. Anyone else from the council have any further questions, comments?
My hand's up.
Okay, let me remind you, Councilor Kwasinski, I can't see people. I need you
That's
to,
why I said something.
I need to put, you gotta hit the button, but okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Wanted to thank the committee for all the hard work. I think we're working hard in Easthampton to bring all parties together to assure that we have a system that works for everyone, a police department that works for everyone. I see that as critical at this time. And I guess I would like to be sure that our report dovetails with the state. And my question is, are we satisfied that we can move forward with the presentation to the mayor without further review of the two reports, bringing together the state's new report and ours? And I want to especially commend the recommendation for review of data, and imagine any other questions that come up quarterly by the Public Safety Committee. I see that as a role that I think can be very helpful with oversight.
Any other comments from the councilors? Does Mayor, do you have anything you'd like to add? If you were, yeah, let's see, Mayor.
I'm here.
Did you want to add anything?
Just thanks to public safety, but also for taking the time. And I did ask for the additional input. While the mayor's pledge is very lengthy and has a lot of information, the level of public participation as well as the members of that work group changing radically midway through. I thought it was important to get it to other forms of public vetting as well, to the city councilors who, I'm not sure who said it, that yes, it's my report, my recommendations. It's my report. I appreciate your recommendations. And what happens next is actually an implementation plan, which indeed could be asking for some appropriations or other things that I would need the council's approval to do. So it was a lot of time, and I know a bunch of people from the public attended some, if not all of the hearings that public safety allowed to happen within their committee meeting. I thank them for that. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more comments from the other counselors and Sergeant Gribby, as well as the members, the public on this call. So
thank you, Mayor.
And I'll be here, obviously, if there are specific questions to be answered.
Okay, great. Sergeant Gribby, do you want to weigh in here? I know you were a part of this, and do you have any additional comments, thoughts?
I can just say, as Councilor Gomez kind of referenced, is that while all this, I mean, obviously the last few years, there's been a lot going on in a lot of different, areas. So while this was all occurring, there was a lot of changes happening at the same time. So I can say the vast majority of the things that are in these recommendations and in this report are things that we already are doing currently. And if they're not something we've been doing for a while now, we're in the process of implementing these things. So I mean, obviously there are kinks to work out because some of this stuff is new, in a good way. We just need to find the most efficient way to put things together and present things. And but in the end, much of this, the vast majority of this are things that in the time frame that we were doing all this research and communication, a lot of it just sort of happened already, organically and through different avenues, the state being the one that you guys kind of referenced as well.
To the committee that put this together, thank you, Sergeant Gribby. To the committee that put this together, is there an opportunity, for us to do kind of a side-by-side, this is what's been done so far? I'm not necessarily suggesting that you do another report. Well, maybe I am. But when we talk about the Public Safety Committee, and Sergeant Gribby just talked about, there's a lot of stuff that's already been done or in process. I feel like we need some sort of a ongoing update status on some of these things. And I recognize that maybe all these things the mayor will not necessarily prioritize as things she's going to do, but I feel like on an ongoing basis, boy, everybody's hands up. I feel like on an ongoing basis, we need to match what the police department is already working on with these recommendations so we can see a progress report over time of where we are. Because like you even said, Councilor Gomez, some of these things have already kind of worked their way through since this whole committee started. So I'm just going to leave that there. And I saw Councilor Peak's hand go up first. And now we've lost.
Yeah. All right, there. It's funny you were saying that, President Conniff, because I was thinking sort of the same thing. I think that some of that might come from our shared sort of corporate background. That I was like, I need to get this like mapped out, I was thinking like it doesn't need to be like an amendment to this or anything, but if there's the idea of a quarterly meeting with the Public Safety Committee, one thing that I think could be really cool would be if there was some way to sort of visually map out kind of like where progress has been made so far, and what what's been accomplished, what's in the works, what hasn't started yet, where are the barriers, that kind of thing, just so that there's a regular chances for the council to for the people that aren't on public safety in particular to kind of know where things are going, what's going well, what might need kind of a nudge in the right direction. So that's just like sort of really broad, vague feedback, but take it or leave it, I guess.
Councilor Rothschild.
Yeah, I like the idea also of like kind of just quarterly to keep the mayor's pledge alive. There might be other things that the mayor and her pledge is obligated to do through that signing of that pledge. But I would definitely recommend the quarterly visits. And I also want to say, like, I think this is a great opportunity. I think Easthampton, if we stick to it and really keep visiting it, I'm sorry, there's a plane over me. Easthampton is representative of lots of other communities. We have a lot of the same issues. We have a predominantly white town. As we said in our letter, this is like the result of segregation. We're still living in this aftermath. And so marginalized communities, we don't understand enough about their experiences, and there's just been an ugly history of police violence and for police but that doesn't mean that doesn't reflect necessarily on individual police officers in our town. And I would say the majority of Easthamptoners have really good relationships with our Easthampton Police Department and rely on them. So I think we're representative of so many towns, but I think what we have that others don't is that, I don't know, we really make things happen here. We can really be innovative. We really, even though we like struggle and hit our heads against each other, we really can work through things. And I think if we really keep to this and keep asking questions and work with data and come to it with like a willingness to learn and willingness to change, I'm really excited about the opportunity that this brings us. And I really think we could become like a model small town. So that's my optimism.
I like it. Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, Madam President. As the chairman of the police safety, I already have some conversation with the police chief about the quarterly report, and he's really open to do it. So we're gonna have it. We're gonna include it in our agenda. The next meeting, we're gonna put in our agenda to have the police at this. And I want to say this for everybody, exactly the same that we're doing with the fire department. So we're gonna do it with the police department too. We're gonna have a quarterly report. And because it's going to be part of the agenda, the counselors, the committees, they're going to allow to ask all these questions that we have or concerns that we have from the report. So quarterly, we're going to bring to the full city council what is happening with the police department.
I would also add that I'd like, and I don't know necessarily how you do this, but I would like some sort of feedback loop from the community. So it's one thing to say, hey, we've done A, B, and C. And if the community says, and they're all worthless and we don't agree with them, we can't be patting ourselves on the back for doing things that are not helpful to the community at large, even though we think we've done great things. If the community doesn't think that, then, it's not perfect. So, I don't want to try to define it here, but I know that you've got this, Councilor Gomez, and I feel very confident that you fully understand all of the direction that this needs to go. And I appreciate all the hard work. I know it was long meetings, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate the public for coming and being very open. And I appreciate the police for attending. And I'm sure it was not comfortable all the time or ever. And I appreciate that they came, and they came with an open mind, and that change and progress will come out of that. So thank you to the committee for doing that. Councilor Zare.
Thanks, President Coniff. I just wanted to build off of kind of the conversation that's going on about regular reporting to the Public Safety Committee. I think that's a great idea, just in terms of, in the spirit of this report, facilitating ongoing community dialogue, as well as transparency and accountability. One thing, and if it's kind of been said already, I apologize, but talking about revisiting these bullet points, and I guess that would also probably happen once the mayor's finished with the report and kind of offers their take on this, he or she. Would the Public Safety Committee be then interested in kind of setting a timeline, so the public and the council kind of know what to expect in terms of when you might have ideas about when these points are supposed to be reached, what's happening in 3 months, what's happening in 6 months, what's happening in a year? Obviously, that could be fluid. It also kind of speaks to what Councilor Pekin was saying before, and speaking to President Coniff's background of kind of, project management. And so we also set expectations that way for the community and for the city. It's a thought and maybe a little bit of an ask as well. So that's all.
Okay. Sergeant Gribby.
I just wanted to, I agree with everything you guys are saying. But I think one of the things that I personally sort of realized throughout all this is just how much this communication and how important that this can affect change and help us do, in terms of me speaking from the police department's perspective, help us understand how we can better our service and how we can, what the public wants from us and expects from us. So the more we can continue and improve this communication of just us understanding what the public's experience is with our service, and at the same time, the more you guys can understand how that is looking from our perspective as well. Like, you guys see these bullet points, and it's to make it more real. If you like, it's almost like I just want to invite you to come down to the station and kind of, so I can show you more of what this actually looks like, so that it's not just checking a box on a bullet point. It's, this is what this looks like. This is how we are working it. These are the people that are involved with that. And it might just give you a better feeling as to what these actual bullet points are, and not just like a sort of like you referenced, just a pat on the back for coming up with a good idea. So I just wanted to, anytime you guys want to reach out or anything to me, I will definitely be available to answer any questions, or if I can, as I said, just kind of introduce you to any of the stuff that you're interested in. I'd definitely enjoy that.
Great, thank you, Kyle. Okay, anything else from counselors before I ask if anyone from the public has any comments? Nothing further?
Madam President, I'm going to stop the share, if that's all right with you.
Sure, yep. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a comment? Okay, so Carolyn Cushing and then Liz. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Hello, Carolyn Cushing, Main Street, Salem's District 4. This is a process question. In being in a past city council meeting, this report had a 90-day extension, and a number of us, many of you can tell from Liz's comments at the beginning, we didn't think this was being discussed and voted on tonight. So, didn't review it with the same amount of attention. It does say in the agenda 1-22. I wonder what's happening on 1-22.
So I'll just explain to you what those numbers mean, but I can't really go into anything more than that. So the way those numbers are when it was introduced. The first number is when it was introduced. The second number, let me look at it real quick. The second number, so when we have something on our agenda, according to, I'm not sure if it's the charter or our rules, we have to address it within a time frame, 90 days. We have to do something. We either have to do it or we have to extend it. And when we extend it, all that means is we have to do something during that extension. It doesn't mean we do it on the end of that extension. It's just, we now have a new 90 days to continue it. We may, in 4 days after we extend it, say, okay, we got everything now, let's vote. So that those numbers are really kind of an internal way for us to make sure that things are moving and that they don't just die on our agenda. And for the public, the agenda that comes out on Thursday are those things that we are and have decided that we're going to talk to and about in a public setting. And so it was on the agenda in a public hearing so that you all could make comments on it. And we may vote on it, we may not vote on it, but it's the public hearing allows us to make our comments and it allows you to make your comments. So I hope that helps.
Yes. And you're saying you may not vote on it. There are some of us who were like, oh, didn't study it quite as much as we would have. So I don't know if that has you put off your vote. I mean, to say there are things that I appreciate hearing tonight about, the police coming for the review and the accountability from the council being kind of proactive and following up about that. Something in particular that I was kind of watching through the process is the peer-led support, which I see it mentioned in the report. I mean, it's like just a small line, it's not the big detail. So, but I'm glad that it made it in there so it can continue to be explored as a non-coercive and very effective in working with people way of dealing with community problems. And also it's a very much a cost-saving police. And Chief Alberti was writing in the story a little while ago about overtime is such a cost. What are there some ways to address that? So anyway, didn't review it as fully as I would if I was clear on these details, and just kind of, this is an ongoing conversation, us, like, oh, how do we help the public figure out, these intricacies of of your way of working. All right, so thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Liz?
Hi again. Yeah, I also just wanted to kind of like what Carolyn said, also in your notes and under for last meeting, it says public safety, a motion made by Councilor Gomez and seconded by Councilor Derby. It was unanimously voted by roll call to extend the following agenda item by 90 days. And under that, it says the mayor's pledge to reimagining policing reporting, or mayor's pledge to reimagine police reporting. And then it also below that said that the Public Safety Committee will meet next on October 19th at 7 p.m. I did find it confusing. I'm sure we're not the only ones. So just something that maybe this council could keep in mind, that perhaps there aren't people here participating that otherwise would be if they had read those notes. And since I'm here, was it Sergeant Gribby or Captain Gribby?
His name is Sergeant Kyle Gribby.
Sergeant Kyle Gribby.
Sorry.
So something that he had just said that made me think about something that is in the mayor's report, where I know he probably said this with the best intentions about coming down to the police station and seeing what this means for the police. And it kind of made me reflect on the part of the mayor's pledge where there was a survey given towards the end, where many of the officers were saying that they just can't do their job if there's groups out there that are trying to, they're police hating and tying their hands. And I just want to remind everyone that this is reimagining police. This isn't fitting to what police currently are. We're not trying to make a pledge that is going to make that fits the agenda of what police are now. We are looking to reimagine and reinvent what police means to the community. Thanks.
Thanks, Liz. Desiree?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I kind of just wanted to, I guess, add to that also, and then also just ask for a little clarification. I attended a lot of the meetings, or the meetings that I could get to, regarding obviously the reimagining and participating. But I just want to kind of clarify, what do we mean by our community being involved? Because I know there was a comment that was made that, the police shouldn't be involved in this report and shouldn't be involved in this reimagining, but I mean, they are our community members also. And I mean, obviously, as this meeting is showing, my husband's a sergeant. Does that mean that my voice doesn't count because of his career? I mean, we are all members of the community and need to start working together to better the situation that we're in, and work together to figure out what works best for all of us, not exclude people because of their career, or exclude people because, they have a different opinion. I mean, we don't need a council that is going to declare I'm pro-police or I'm against police. We need a council that are going to actually work together and be willing to listen to all sides and make a better decision for our entire community, and not just a better decision for themselves. So I just want clarification, I guess, on who's actually going to be involved with these meetings and who does have a voice. And then obviously I did read some of the report, and one of the suggestions is that involved committee that's going to be reviewing the complaints or potential complaints that come in. And again, how are you going to decipher who gets to be a part of this? Are there going to be people that are excluded just because who a spouse is, or who their partner is, or what their job is? We need to have everybody involved in our community if that's what we're trying to talk about, and that's what we're trying to bring together.
Okay. Desiree, we can't have a back and forth, and I think you probably already know that. So thank you for your comments, and we'll, we just can't have a back and forth, unfortunately, with this. Shelby and Donovan.
Hi, Shelby Lee in Precinct 4. I want to ask that the council consider what they're hearing and postpone this vote. The way that the agenda was interpreted by anybody who reads it, and as someone who has been attending the meetings regularly, hearing the discussion as well, the general public interprets that as being postponed unless someone change their mind. Really the date code, I think, is the biggest issue, especially when you acknowledge that it's only understood by the city council. Anyone else who looks at that agenda from the outside says, oh, this is postponed probably until this date. So I think that in the best interest of including all of the voices of the public from all perspectives, as we say we want to do in this reimagining, then it needs to be in a way that the public understands that it's happening, to be there to, put their input in. Thanks.
Thank you. Emily.
Hi there, my name's Emily Rothwell. I live on Park Street in District 4. And I'd like to just echo what Shelby is saying. I attended some of the public safety meetings. I attended the last city council meeting. I also interpreted based on the discussion and the notes that this would be coming up for topic not tonight. And I'm disappointed that I'm not prepared to take on this conversation and ask important questions. I appreciate that I hear the counselors expressing care and concern about the constituents and the public of Easthampton having our voices heard and our opinions shared on this topic. And I feel like this confusion about the schedule and when this would be discussed has limited that opportunity to give insight tonight. So I request also that this be postponed for a later time. Thank you.
Julie. Julie?
Hi, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I did it again. Hi, no, actually, I just wanted to thank all the counselors for the efforts in this. I believe that they were actually going to be voting on it tonight. I've been following the meetings as well, and my understanding was that yes, they would be voting on it tonight. So I think that they should move forward with that. Also, I just kind of wanted to reemphasize what Desiree was talking about in regards to eliminating other people's thoughts on how the community should feel on this report if they're related to an officer, if they're living within the town, because really all voices do matter. And I also wanted to ask, well, I can't ask a question, but I just wanted to make a statement on the mayor's pledge report, because I've read it a good couple of times. And the majority of the report, especially in the survey, were very positive interactions with our Easthampton PD. But when I'm reading the final report that is being presented, I don't see very much of that in there. And I don't know if you're only focusing on improvements and not showing the whole 360. I don't understand that, because I always feel like if you're going to give a picture, you give the entire picture. You don't just give partial, because people tend to gravitate always towards the negative. And we want to show a full picture. It's kind of like in the introductory that you guys put on here. I had questioned that introductory a little bit, because on the introductory, first the statement says it was also became clear that there's not enough data and sharing of data to have substantive conversations around areas of bias, police oversight, or policy changes. But then in the following one, in the introductory, it said the city of Easthampton has the opportunity to be proactive in working with our police department to create more transparency around data, practices, and oversight in an effort to build trust with the community and work towards eliminating bias. Well, when you put eliminating bias, that perceives that you found bias within our police department, and that is not the case. So I think that that statement portrays the men and women of Easthampton PD are biased, and that paints an untrue representation of our police department, and I think that should be changed. So thank you for letting me speak. And again, I really appreciate everybody's effort in this, and I thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And back to Shelby and Donovan.
Hi, good evening. It's Donovan Lee this time, resident of Ward 4 as well. I just wanted to echo the people that are saying that the agenda for tonight was, a little bit convoluted and not super easy to understand, and that, members of the community and people that try and work together in the community all came to a consensus that this wasn't happening according to the wording. So it seems, a little difficult to understand the way that it was put forward right now. So I just want to echo what everyone else is saying, that, we would like a chance for everyone in the community to prepare themselves and know exactly what's going to happen during the meeting so they can, have their remarks ready. I know I have some remarks that I'm not ready to make tonight because I was not prepared for this vote to go down tonight. So, I just wanted to say that. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. I feel like we need to clarify the notification to the public about what goes on in a city council meeting. The agenda clearly states that we're going to have a public hearing around the mayor's pledge. It clearly states that in the agenda. And so I'm not really clear if you're focusing on the dates, that's probably not what you should be focusing on. You should be focusing on the agenda that comes out on Thursday. That's all I'm going to say. I guess I get that everyone misinterpreted that, but going forward, whatever is in that box on the city council agenda, those are the public hearings where all of these big things get discussed, appropriation ordinances and things of this nature. So I'm not sure where the misinformation came from, but the agenda is the Bible, and that is what you need to focus on. The minutes are really just kind of what we talked about, but after the meeting, we can add things to the agenda that we don't talk about during the meeting, and then that would show up in the packet, and then on and on we go. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. I may have made it more confusing. Anyway, Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, Madam President. I think it was clear. And it was clear because I just want to say something about, I want to clarify something. We extended 90 days because I asked, because if we didn't extend, it would expire a couple days ago. And that's what the reason we extended 90 days. I think the agenda was clear. There was only for that, including the minutes. I just take a look at the minutes again, and the minutes was clear that we only vote to extend the report. But we said we scheduled a public hearing for tonight, and everything was pretty clear. But that doesn't mean that I'm open to move it to the next meeting and vote to the next meeting. But if everybody think and believe that the report is the report that we're gonna finish and we're gonna send it to the mayor, I'm ready to vote today too.
Councilor Risch?
I actually feel that we should extend it, and I say this because I wanted Chief Alberti to make a at-length statement regarding this. It's his department we're talking about, and he's not here. I was already going to ask that we continue this public hearing to the next meeting anyway. The other side of this, I realize that we all are aware that when something is set for public hearing, we're going to vote on it. But maybe we could make that clearer. I want to think about that. I'm always looking to make things a little more transparent, a little more readily available to the public. So if we're going to vote on something, and sometimes we vote on things that aren't in the public hearing. So I want to look at that and maybe look at rules that might help us with that regard, because a lot of people know how we process doesn't mean that everybody does. But I was going to ask for an extension anyway because the chief isn't here, and I'd like the chief to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Councilor Kwasinski.
Madam President, I would certainly be so inclined to consider seriously a reason to take this up at another meeting. I think there's plenty of time. There's nothing that the mayor is saying this is urgent. We have to deal with it this day, or we're going to lose $1 million of state or federal funds, which I think we've heard that kind of talk before, that we do something immediately. I think this is something we all want to work together with the mayor and with the public, and to have full transparency. I would appreciate if somebody would please pull up the screen of the agenda. Is that possible, Councilor Rist?
Yeah,
and the reason is illustrative, and I think the public, since we're discussing this so much, really needs to clarify this. And if the screen could go up and we could go to to the agenda page, just to go on the face page of the agenda, if you might, for a moment, on the face page of the agenda, and if you scroll down to the bottom, there is a section entitled Public Hearings That is where the public hearings are clearly set and laid out with the time of the public hearings. If you could scroll down to the next page, please.
We're getting a little education in city council agenda.
Right there. I think it's really important to note that there are stars or asterisks next to the items that were on the agenda that are now part of the public hearing. So I think it becomes very clear that something is going to be discussed in a public hearing. There are also dates at the end, and those dates are for us to keep track, to bring items back to the full council. That there was a rule that was passed where you just can't keep something in committee forever, that every 90 days or whatever date is set by the council, we bring items back. So I think it's important to note just what kind of information the public should be looking for in terms of how to predict whether an item could be voted on and whether it's scheduled to absolutely be discussed at a particular meeting. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you, Councilor Kwasinski. That was really helpful. Councilor Peak.
Thank you, Madam President. So I guess my thing is, it sounds like there's a lot of people from the community who misunderstood the agenda and want to participate and can't or are not prepared to. And on that alone, I'm fine with continuing this so long as the sense that I get. So my understanding based on my previous thing is that since most of these are executive items that do not actually require our approval, if like a great opportunity to move forward on one of these happens in the next 2 weeks, our continuing this meeting is not going to preclude the mayor from doing something that could be a positive step for the community. And as long as I've heard that, I am fine to continue it.
Okay. Mayor, you have your hand up?
Can you not see me, Peg? Jeez.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't. I'm sorry. Hold on, Mayor. Councilor Derby. Sorry.
I think my hand blends into my background.
I think it does. You're right.
I'm like, wait, why is she skipping over me? Anyway, so I just wanted to say that, you know, I too am fine with continuing this. I think that that's great. And I want to, you know, just acknowledge the rest of our committee as we worked on this, because, you know, as a lot of you might be aware, that this is not a subject that requires a public hearing. This was something that we chose to do as a public hearing, you know, but could have just been a report out of committee, but we understood the levity and the importance of this. So I want to just, you know, give Omar a nod to that, because I think it is important to be able to have the public's input on this, which is why I think it's important for us to be able to, you know, let as many people weigh in on this as possible, and also have more time to digest it, because we did work really hard on it. And, you know, and I think it is a good amalgamation of priorities. So, you know, I'm completely in support of extending this out.
Okay, great. Mayor. You're muted.
I realize I'm hearing the conversation and whatnot. I just want to clarify one, Councilor Kwasinski is correct. There's not a loss of dollars if there's a, you know, a vote or not, on acceptance of it. But that said, you know, I feel the urgency of this review and the urgency of the report has taken a meandering point, a meandering path to this point. I want to be very respectful to public comment and also the recommendations by City Council. But there are some things from the recommendation report. So I don't want to mislead anyone, that I think the public conversation, you know, obviously should continue both in the original, for original remarks, and also remarks on the mayor pledge report and the recommendations. I am grateful for the Public Safety Committee and Councilor Gomez in particular saying yes to me. When I asked, he did not have to. And I do want to echo the comments. I asked and he agreed, as did the other two members, to take this on because I was worried about lack of public public comment on the report and the process. There were public hearings during the mayor pledge proceedings, as well as surveys, and then 3 public hearings on public safety. And I'm not trying to weigh in about voting or not, but I do feel like I have a lot of information that I'm starting to sift through. And the vote or acceptance of this report is one that is appreciated, but is not attached to me going forward with the mayor pledge and putting a recommendation before. So next steps is, I'm going to start putting together the recommendations into an implementation plan. People will see that some things are already starting to happen, and actually happen from, feedback we got since June 3rd. So always welcome to have the conversation. And again, this will go back to my my undoing racism workshop that I attended, and there's no quick fix. It's not going to happen overnight, and this conversation should by no means stop or think it has an urgency to end. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Rist.
I appreciate what the mayor said, and there's nothing to preclude the mayor from acting concurrently with what we're doing, but we are the forum for the public to make comment, and we need to address that and not vote on this and sending it to the mayor. That doesn't mean the mayor can't implement anything she feels she wants to from the pledge as well as from our recommendations. So I don't think it inhibits the mayor from moving forward if we wait for the public to weigh in further. So I'd like to make a motion, if it's appropriate, to continue this public hearing, Madam President.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to continue the public hearing on the mayor's pledge report. Any further discussion? Barbara? Councilor Zaret?
Sorry, I apologize. I didn't use the raise hand feature, President Conlon. Just to clarify too, as the council remembers, this didn't have to even be a public hearing. The purpose of this, and I think rightfully so, was to create transparency and engagement. So I think it's good that we're continuing so we can get all the public input. I just wanted to remind people of that on the record, that initially this could have just been discussed in a committee report. So the purpose for this was better community engagement. And so continuing this, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Any further discussion? Barbara?
I just have one clarification. Are you continuing it to a date in particular, or?
Oh, sorry. How about the 20th?
Yeah, the next meeting. I apologize.
20th. Pick one, Barb, whichever one you like.
Okay. Yep.
10:20.
Okay. Dan Rist?
Yes.
Lindsay Rothschild?
Did we lose her?
Okay.
Yes,
Owen
Melissa.
Zaret?
Yes.
Peg Coniff?
Aye.
Salem Derby?
Aye.
Omar Gomez?
Aye.
JP Kaczynski?
Aye.
Tom Peak?
Aye.
Lindsay, are you there? Okay.
Dana. Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
Motion passes. Okay, so we will move that to 10:20 to allow for additional public speak. And I'll take a motion to close the public hearings.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to close public hearings. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Well, Lindsay, are you there? Okay. Owen Zaret?
Yes.
Peg Coniff?
Aye.
Salem Derby?
Aye.
Omar Gomez?
Aye.
JP Kaczynski?
Aye.
Tom Peak?
Aye.
Dan Rist?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right, before we continue, does anybody need a break? Okay. We did communication from elected officials. Any correspondence? I have none. Anything you'd like to say, Councilor Rist?
To thank everybody. It was a good month for me. I did want to tell you that as much as I wanted to take a break, the state legislature finally decided to review our charter changes. of course, it was in September 14th, and Representative Carey and I attended the meeting, and I spoke to what was going on in our charter review. We may actually see that pass the legislature before this term ends, which is amazing considering how long it's taken. But I wanted you to know that Representative Carey and myself, we made some progress. And I'm just reporting to the council that hopefully we see these changes. It'd be great if they were made before the new terms begin, because the charter, as you all know, dictates how we proceed in this city.
Right.
So it'd be nice to have it done. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, and welcome back, Councilor Rist. We missed you. So I'm glad you're back. I missed you for sure. I made a lot of mistakes 2 weeks ago. Mayor Communications, Mayor LaChapelle.
Yes, I just have one quick. So we had undoing racism training, our second workshop. Members of the community attended, as well as leadership in the city and city employees. I will be just publishing a quick press release about who attended and what the workshops are about. But I wanted to let folks know that that was our rounds of completed. The workshop is 18 hours long over 3 days, and I appreciate the leadership in the city attending and attentive. It was certainly very deep and the beginning of a long journey. So thank you to the city employees and leadership that attended, as well as the members of the community. And I will have a written report shortly after Columbus Day. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, reports of standing committees. We will begin with Finance, Councilor Rist.
Councilor Krasinski had his
Councilor
hand up for the
Krasinski.
mayor, Madam President.
I'm sorry, I always forget to do that. Does anyone have any questions of the mayor? Councilor Kwasinski.
Thank you, Madam President and Councilor Rist. I just wanted to thank the mayor wholeheartedly and from the bottom of my heart for the Undoing Racism program. I think that the process is beginning for our community. It is a long process, and I believe we're making the right steps by having the 3-day seminar that she has proposed for the city. So I appreciate the last session, and I know there was a session earlier. So I look forward to the groups getting together to meet, to discuss, and continue the work. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilor, and thank you for attending. The hope would be that we would offer the 18-hour workshop again to employees, but to members of the community, members of the faith community, and also school staff, as well as students above the age of 16. So, and we'll get the word out on that as soon as we figure out time and booking and cost. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Gomez. Oh, sorry. Did you have something?
Go ahead, Mayor.
Mayor?
It's not related to this, but I would like to just say something quick after Councilor Gomez.
Councilor Gomez, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to echo Councilor Krasinski words. I participate in those 18 hours, and being at the other side as a Latino, I learned a lot too. I get hit a few times of my reality, of my real reality. There's sometimes I pretend not to see. Was tough, and I'm asking you guys who didn't participate and whoever are gonna get offered to take this training, please take it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Gomez. Okay, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor, for those comments. And I agree. We've all committed to do some really tough work. And while it sounds trite and pithy, I don't put myself in anybody else's shoes. But if we're going to do the work, 18 hours is nothing to what Black, Brown, AAPI folks have experienced their entire life. So somewhat related. So we had, we hosted the Secretary Michael Keneally and Under Secretary Jennifer Maddox from the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development about housing, affordable housing in the city of Easthampton, walk through some different areas of the city, went into Pleasant Green and New City about just general employment, general improvements, as well as the 3 schools that will be surplused. We had really, substantive conversations. It was a very fast hour and a half. It went from city space and going after that bond money to parking, to housing, types of housing. We'll have a follow-up meeting with the CEO of Mass Development, Dan Rivera, and some of his folks on Friday around small business and housing and how to do that together, as well. Community Economic Development and Assistance Corporation came along, as did Massachusetts Housing Partnership. So Friday is CEO Rivera, who former mayor of Lawrence, and when he was at Lawrence, he redeveloped 1 mil of 1 million square feet with a variety of housing and small businesses, public services. So really looking forward to get him into the city, take a look. And then later in October, to wrap up the state tour, and the big push as they go into budget will be Mass Housing Secretary Mass Housing CEO Crystal Cornegay, who has done some really awesome work out in Lawrence and Lowell around housing, first-time home buyer, and opening up a housing market that's very tough. So I wanted to share that. And I think it is very noteworthy that of all the planning and feasibility studies we've done, whether it's the art visioning or Council on Aging or Council on Disability, when we're talking about this, like the number one is housing for everyone. So we're making steps, and I feel that this work we've just talked about is a big part of that too. It's all interconnected. So with that, Madam President, I am done for real. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Anyone else have a question of the mayor? All right. Now we will move on to reports of standing committees. Finance, Councilor Rist.
I will ask that the council please accept Councilor Gomez, who attended the last Finance Committee meeting. I was not able to attend that, and he would make a report, and then I will come back to do the new business.
Okay.
Councilor Gomez, thank you so much for doing my work for me.
Thank you for being back. And I was hoping everybody say no, so that way you have to do the whole report. but I guess I have to do it. So I want to start saying that we schedule a meeting for October 12th at 5 p.m. I think it's
October 13th to
13. I'm sorry, 13. You're right. You see, that's why you're back. I don't want to make a motion to set up a public hearing for October 20th at 6:15 for the following things. Request to amend Chapter 7, Section 7 -17, Exhibit A, classification of an employee by adding in a new position, community social worker at grade F. I'm going to add all of them, so I'm going to, as a one motion. Amendment to Chapter 7, Section 717, Exhibit A, classification of employment by changing the pay rate grade for the position of the public health nurse from grade A to grade F, and to amend chapter 7, section 717, exhibit A by adding in the position of information technology director at grade H.
Second.
Motion second to set a public hearing for the aforementioned city ordinance amendments. Any further discussion? Barbara?
And that was for October 20th, correct?
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, just checking. Okay, Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan Rist
Aye.
and Lindsay. Is Lindsay
She
gone?
dropped, I
Gone.
think.
Okay, all right.
Okay, motion passes.
And Councilor Rist, I think is all yours now.
I would like you to deal with the, I don't think it needed a public hearing, but the change in scope.
Oh,
For
I'm
the,
sorry. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
you're right.
because although I know about it because I was involved at the CPA level, Burns Maxey's here and Jamie's here.
I do have the information here. Thank you, Councilor Reyes. Long night, a lot of stuff. I totally forgot about it. Thank you for reminding me that. Yes, we do have a request to change the scope of some funding. We in 2017, we approved some money to do some work in the second floor, if that's my understanding. But we didn't. They didn't do it. They didn't use the money, but they didn't get the money because CPA still have the money. And what we're gonna do is only gonna change the scope of, instead of being working at the second floor, now they're going to do something at the first floor, and they need our approval for that. That's correct, Jamie?
Yes, that's correct. They did do the work partly. The original funding was a $207,000 funding appropriation from the council to be matched 1-to-1 with a grant from the state. The state only awarded $135,000 roughly. So the remaining $70,000 was put into a set-aside account for the second floor project for when 1-to-1 matching funds were found by City Space, they could access the remaining funds for related work to the project. There were a couple instances where they needed to change architectural plans because of comments from like Mass Historical Commission, or they needed to do additional exploratory work. And the ceiling, so it's related to that project, and those requests were approved. This is a new request to change the scope because their work now is, as you said, on the first floor and the tower of the building, and outside of the scope of what the second floor project was.
And if this is my understanding, this is to meet the fire and building codes, right?
Correct.
And some paint.
Correct. There was, and Burns is here, the president of City Space can explain further, but it was fire and building code related activities to bring the flywheel space up to code, as well as some painting in that space and on the one of the towers in the old town hall.
Burns, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'd like to thank Jamie Webb for helping us through this process of reappropriating these funds. You know, there was a question of how we could go about this because of the impacts from losing a tenant in the old town hall of the city-owned building. We lost a significant amount of funding, and so we decided to, City Space decided to manage the first floor space. And in order to do that, some work needed to be done. Also during 2020, we had to maintain the historically owned building. And we did so by taking funds from our reserves. And with that loss of a tenant, that disrupted our funding model. So, so we're coming to the CPA to request some of the reappropriation of those funds in order to push the project forward so that we can get back on track. And we see this as a direct correlation between the first floor and the second floor capital campaign.
Okay, Councilor Rist?
I just wanted to add that the CPA, I was there at the CPA meeting and we discussed this and the CPA did approve this. It is part of the CPA's requirements that if a project needed to change the scope of that project, they, in any way, the funding and how they're using it, they have to come back to the CPA for approval. And I requested that the council approve it, and this is unusual in that the council approved this original recommendation for of $207,000 for the second floor. So if we're going to go to the first floor for it, it's not just a matter of us informing you. I think it's important for the council to vote on it. So that's why it's on the agenda. And I hope you will support it. I think what they're trying to do with Flywheel is excellent.
Any other, is that you, Mayor, raising your hand? You're on.
Yes, I was trying to use technology. So I would just like to express support for what's before the council now. I think we all know well that business and well-laid plans, people's lives change, and we're all in a different place than we ever expected. And to give this fluidity and shift to city space is very important. They were very prominent today in the conversations with the secretary, and the impact, even though I know the impact, to listen to it in the presentation and the questions that were asked, the impact is even deeper than it kind of brought me back to what this project means to Easthampton. So I would encourage the council to vote in favor. Thank you.
Madam President.
Councilor Rist?
I just wanted to remind me, Jamie, the amount of money that we approved. It's not on the agenda, and I just want to put that forward.
Yeah, so the request is for $13,219, which we matched one. It's actually, I think City Space is putting more into the project because there were some items that were not eligible for CPA expenditures, but they will be matching it. Burns, I think it was like 25,000 that you had said. But the city council's being asked to allow the scope change for $13,219.
If it's all right, I can make that motion.
Sure. I have the motion, but you can do it.
Oh, never mind.
It's your committee.
No, you have the motion, do it.
All right, I move that the city council approve the request modification of the scope of the design funds appropriation in fiscal year 2017 for reimbursement to the city space for the architecture fees to redesign the Old Town Hall first floor space and to meet fire and buildings code and paint the first floor space formerly occupied by Flywheel.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the change in scope for the CPA committee, for the, okay, I've lost my place here. For the Old Town Hall, wow. Any further discussion? Councilor Zarrett.
Okay, now my hand's up.
I see that.
Just to chime in support of this, as Councilor Rist said, this project is potentially going to lead to creating a space on the second floor there that's going to be a hallmark of our city. And this new incorporation of the Flywheel space makes total sense, and it's a great opportunity. So anything to support this project and continuing to make it feasible and viable, in support of 100%. I mean, this reinvigorating the space is the future of Easthampton, I believe.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Owen Zarrett.
Yep. Yes.
Yep. Okay, motion passes. All right. I think there's new business, right, Councilor Riss?
Councilor Rist.
That's correct. And I will thank you, Councilor Gomez, for all your hard work for me. We have some, first of all, the meeting will take place on October 13th. Madam President, I will be asking for a public hearing for the $298,000 appropriation because of, I believe I heard the chief would like to get that done soon so that he can order 2 ambulances and save the city money. But I'll place the other 2, since we still have a lot on the agenda, I'll place the other 2 public hearings after that. Does anybody?
So by after that, do you mean November
The first
3rd?
meeting in November, but I'd like to hear from the mayor if the planning department issue is something that needs to be done immediately. Is she still on? Probably not.
Mayor, you still, there we go. Mayor, do you have, if we move the $97,000 question on the city planner's budget to November 3rd for a public hearing, is that a problem?
No.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Then I'll make a first reading. Give me a second. I have to find it. I had it.
We've missed you, Dan.
Yeah, I'm out of practice.
I know.
First reading of a supplemental appropriation. Request is hereby made for the approval of the following appropriation. The amount requested is $298,872 to be transferred from the Cannabis Stabilization account, $298,872 to be transferred to FY22 new ambulance, $298,872. The amount requested would be used for the following purpose. These funds will be used to purchase a new ambulance to replace the 2013 ambulance. I'm going to read all the supplementals and then make motions. The second one is for a supplemental appropriation for the following appropriation, $97,000 to be transferred also from the Cannabis Stabilization account to be transferred to A, planner full-time regular, $34,000, B, planner professional services, $60,000, and C, planner PVPC assessment, $3,000. For the following purposes, to fund approximately 40% of the city planner's salary for FY21 from Cannabis Stabilization rather than general fund, correlating to cannabis-related activity. The replaced general funds will remain in the department to be used to fund the conservation agent position full-time. This not a salary increase or raise. B, to fund cannabis and general planning related activities within the department, including but not limited to hiring consultants to evaluate cannabis impacts, hiring consultants for due diligence and creation of design plans, and preparing for other studies as needed. And C, to fund the city annual PVPC membership assessment to all communities for the region. The next is the building department. Excuse me, I gotta find it again. Interdepartmental transfer for $6,000. The amount is requested for $6,000 to be transferred from the reserve fund, $6,000 to be transferred to the building FT permanent position, $6,000. The amount requested will be for the following purpose: to fix the building department budget. Madam President, I make a motion to send these to the Finance Committee for review. After that vote, I will make separate motions for public hearings.
Second.
Motion is second to move the 3 appropriations to the Finance Committee. Any further discussion? Barbara? Councilor Kwasinski. Oh, Councilor Kwasinski, let me remind you, you can only ask a question about moving it to the Finance Committee, not about the appropriations themselves. The motion is, do we want to move these to the committee? So
I hear you. I just like to make a comment. I don't need to discuss it. I hope that there's further clarification in committee about to fix the building department budget.
yeah, that's what committee.
I was a little concerned about that proposal in the way it was worded.
Okay.
I strongly suggest you come to the meeting there, JP.
Okay. Okay, so Barb,
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
aye.
I would like to, are we done? We're done.
Yep.
I'd like to make a
Motion
motion
passes.
to set a public hearing, number one, for October 20th for the $298,000 appropriation for the ambulance. And I don't know the date of the first meeting in November, but that date for the other two appropriations,
November 3rd.
November 3rd at 6:15.
Second.
Motion second to set public hearings for all three. First one is the 298,872 for 10/20. The other two for November 3rd. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Let's see here. It would be Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Madam President, that concludes.
No, it isn't, Dan.
Nope, one more.
What did I do?
The tax classification hearing.
Oh,
Oh, and they want that November 3rd, correct?
yep.
Well, you can decide that.
Well, I think I'll just abide by what the assessors want. I'd like to
Okay.
make a motion that we have the public hearing for the tax classification on November 3rd.
Second.
Motion second to set the tax classification hearing for November 3rd. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
Yes.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
I think I'm concluded, Barbara.
You are.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay. Public Safety, Counselor Gomez.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question because I don't have a report, but I do have a question because tonight they were supposed to do the Ordinance Review Committee report. Lindsay's Councilor Rothschild is not here. And I don't know if, because we're supposed to move a few things for different committees, and they're supposed to move a few things to the Public Safety Committee. Do you want me to make the motion and move that tonight, or you want to hold it until she can do the report?
Are you asking if we're going to move her final report to a public hearing?
No, to the public safety, because it's the report, he recommend a few changes. Some of them they're going to ordinance and some of them they're going to public safety. And that my question, if you want to do those, you want to send that, yeah, Councilor Peak probably have the answer for that.
My understanding, and Lindsay reached out to me briefly, Councilor Rothschild, I'm sorry, reached out to me briefly earlier today, is that it's now all of our prerogatives to take the items, the recommendations from that report and refine them into measures that, live up to the standards of our rules and introduce them to one committee or another. Very little of what's in there is actually written out right now in a way that's ready for prime time. So I think my understanding was not that Councilor Rothschild had planned to introduce, a dozen items to public safety and ordinance like all tonight, but really just to sort of introduce the report, which I said I would do briefly in her stead, and that it's then on us to look it over and figure out how to refine that.
I'm okay with that.
You're muted, Peg.
So look it over individually, and how do we do that without sending it to a committee to have a discussion about what we're going to do with it?
Well, I think I'm gonna. My plan, I thought, was to give a brief introduction to it when we get to that section of the agenda,
Okay.
and sort of discuss process there.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So is that it for public safety then? Okay. appointments, Lindsay's not here. Was someone else going to move it? Okay, Council Kwasinski.
Thank you, Madam President. We have one appointment to move for new business, if I may, at this time. That is, the mayor has recommended the appointment of Shira Simon to the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership with a term expiration 12/31/2022. I would like to move that to the Appointments Committee.
Second.
Motion second to move the mayoral appointment to the Appointment Committee. Any further discussion? Barbara.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Homer Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Aye. Okay, motion passes.
We also have a meeting to mention that it will be October 13th at 4 p.m. That's a new time, I believe, 4 p.m. on October 13th, the Wednesday before the city council meeting, where we will
Nope,
be.
there's no city council that night. Oh, your Wednesday before, I get you. Okay, so just FYI, finance starts at 5.
I apologize, before the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay, so it starts at 5. Yours will be less than an hour.
We will be less than an hour.
Okay. All right,
That's October 13th at 4 p.m.
gotcha.
And that we will discuss an appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Council on Aging Director, the Building Commissioner, and a member of the Agricultural Committee.
Okay,
That concludes the report.
thank you. Ordinance.
Thank you, Madam President. Ordinance met on September 28th. And we had a really interesting meeting with the EDIC coming to discuss some thoughts they had on a potential ordinance about empty storefronts, some things that they had found from other communities and other cities that they had done to kind of mitigate how many empty storefronts were just being left to fester. And I would say that, stay on the lookout. I imagine that there will be an ordinance coming soon to a neighborhood near you. We also did discuss some plastic straws issues, and it was really interesting. We had a few guests come and discuss that with us. Always great to have people come and talk about, what could be mundane things and make them exciting. And so we are going to be, I imagine, bringing that forward again in the near future. And in that vein, I will say that we are meeting next Tuesday, October 12th at 7 p.m. So if you're interested in coming and discussing any of the things on our agenda, please join us. And I don't think I need to extend anything, so I will say thus concludes.
You have no new business? That's shocking.
It is.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Derby. Property, Councilor Zaret.
Thank you, President Coniff. It looks like we have an item. We have no old business or continuing business. We do have a new piece of business regarding an easement off of Payson Avenue that I need to read up on more. But for now, I would like to make a motion. Sorry, I ended up in the wrong part of the agenda. I apologize. Scrolling up to an agenda near you. Here we are. At this time, I would like to make a motion to move the request for electric utility easements relative to tower at 32 Payson Avenue to the property committee.
Second.
Motion second to move the easement tower thing to the property committee. Any further discussion? What he said. Okay, Barbara.
Homer Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
And boy, no rest for the weary. I guess I'll set a public hearing for that item for the first meeting in November, I think, based on everything else I'm hearing, if that seems to be commensurate with the feeling.
That doesn't need a public hearing.
No?
Nope.
Okay. Then I
Even
will
better.
not. Yeah, indeed, exactly. Okay, so I'll withdraw that motion then. We'll find a time to meet and present this as part of our regular committee discussion. And thus concludes.
Thank you. Rules and Government Relations, Councilor Peak.
Thank you, Madam President. Rules has not met since our last meeting. We're going to meet tomorrow, and we're going to be meeting to discuss re-precincting. And Barb has made it very clear that if you have any thoughts on this at all, you need to be at that meeting. In fact, that meeting should have already been earlier, but there was some confusion and people tripped over each other. And I don't know exactly how that went down, but point is you got to be there, or it's going to be way too late to really have any feelings about that. So definitely, if you have any feelings at all about where the precincts are, you got to be there tomorrow.
We're voting on it on the 20th. We're voting on it on the 20th.
Yeah. If you have any questions on the 20th, I'm just going to be like, quiet. You should have been here there at that meeting. That's what I'm going to say. I mean, you don't have to listen. I have no. But that's how I feel.
It's a rough
and that's how
crowd.
Barb feels too.
Yes.
Okay. So that I guess is. Oh, and it looks like we need to move the warrant for the November 2nd city election. Or can we just vote on that here?
You just vote on it.
All right, then I'll make a motion to approve the warrant for the November 2nd city election.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the warrant for the election on November 2nd. Any further discussion? Barbara.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed.
And thus concludes.
Thank you, Councilor Peak.
Tom,
Yes.
what about that resolution? Were you going to make comment on that?
The resolution, I was thinking of moving it forward. I noticed that 2 people were out, and just getting the sense that that might be sort of a close vote. I thought I'd just wait until the next meeting.
That's what I meant. Did you want to tell people? All right. Thank you.
Sure. Yes. Then that is what I will. Yes, that was the initial plan. And when I realized there was going to be some absences, those votes always get kind of weird when there's more than one person missing. So I just thought we can discuss that at the next one.
Okay, sounds good. Ad hoc committees, anything ranked choice voting, Council Peak?
Yes, mailers are going to go out tomorrow, so you can find those in your mailbox. They're going out to all the addresses in town through some nifty direct mailing things that one of our members came up with. They will have a link on there for Spanish speakers to access that same information on the city website, as well as some information about voting by mail and registering to vote and all of that, but and a link to some more information about ranked choice voting. So those are going out tomorrow. We spent a lot of time sort of workshopping those. We feel pretty good about them.
Great, thank you. Anything, Councilor Kwasinski, on senior tax work-off?
Only that it's exciting to say that there are 10 people working in the senior tax work-off program or about to start shortly. So again, thank you to the mayor and to everyone else for this program getting off the ground. And we look forward to it proceeding throughout the remainder of the year.
And is it your intent, Councilor Kwasinski, that when this expires on 12/31, that will be the end of that committee as it currently was concocted?
I'm not sure whether we will make that recommendation.
Not every member will still be here.
That is correct.
Just saying.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Ordinance Review Committee. Who was going to speak to this? Councilor Peak?
I'll do my best. I'm not insanely prepared, but I got a text from Councilor Rothschild. So yeah, in short, the committee voted unanimously to approve a report, which is in the packet. The report, I hope you've all had a chance to read. I don't feel like at this hour it probably makes a lot of sense for me to read it point by point, but it's there for all of us. Broadly, we went through most of the recommendations were fairly minor, but I think that some of them, could be important. Again, the way that this was set up was to be an advisory group to review the ordinance, the city ordinances for potential problems. There was never an attempt to draft our own replacement language. So the challenge then that's before all of us is to look at the report and identify some things that you care about, and draft some replacement language. There's cases where this could be very, very simple fixes. There's some that could be a bit more complex. But there's not a thought that we need to address all of this at once, but that we should that now that the report's there, that it's a jumping off point to identify some areas where the various committees can get to work. There was a thought about whether or not we wanted to do anything with the zoning, and the general thought was that there might be a need for a committee to do that someday. That committee would probably need a different set of technical skills, but in the meantime, the committee in our report very strongly supported the housing production plan as a clear example of some places where our zoning could be updated to make a city that's more inclusive and easy for a larger group of people to live in. Other than that, I would just say on behalf of Councilor Rothschild and also on behalf of myself, and I'm sure everyone else, just thanks to all the community volunteers who showed up and put in a lot of work reading a very dense document, and thanks to the police department for sending folks to sit in our meetings and give some context about how or if these various ordinances are enforced. I'm pretty proud of the report that we came up with, and I really encourage everyone to give it a good close look.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm still not clear on how individually we go through this. I would rather it be a little, I feel like this should go to ordinance, and then that's where the conversation around whether these are viable ordinances changes would be born. It sounds like what you're saying is all 9 of us just go away, look at these, come back and say, hey, I don't like 1, 3, and 7, but I like 2, 9, and 8. I feel like it needs to be in a committee. And so I'm not clear on where the next steps are.
Well, so I thought of it sort of like the housing production plan, right? In that the housing production plan has lots of different suggestions in it, but a councilor needs to initiate every one of them. I hear what you're saying, and I think that I'm like.
So this could die a slow death if none of us decided any of these were worth looking at. We would just throw it in the trash and it would never come up again.
Well, I hope we don't. I intend to do a couple
right, but I'm
of them,
saying that could happen.
Just like the housing production plan in 2007 or whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
But yeah, I think, I'm open to having a broader discussion about other ways that we do that. But that was sort of the idea, is that this comes to the council as an advisory document, and then the councilors decide how to proceed with these various recommendations.
Councilor Rist?
I was going to suggest that we send the committee report to ordinance. The ordinance committee would discern which ordinances might go to public safety and which they would take up. But I agree with Councilor Coniff. I don't want it to die. If it's in committee, something happens. And I think and I'd like Salem to chime in here, all that the ordinance committee is going to do is decide which ordinances they want to take up and change and develop new language for. And those that might be related to public safety, they would recommend to send to public safety, unless Councilor Gomez already knows which ones he wants. But I absolutely feel they need to go to committee tonight in order that they don't die. It's a lot of work that this committee's done. And I really appreciate that committee and especially Councilor Rothschild. And I don't want us not to act on them in some way. So if they're not in committee, we always get busy and I think they will die. So I'm going to make that motion if anybody else doesn't.
Okay. Councilor Gomez?
Thank you, Madam President. The report that we have at the package have some recommendation, and the recommendations they say proposed actions, right? And one of the proposed actions is review and revision by the ordinance committee, and then they split it in two groups of the recommendation. One of the recommendation is referred to the ordinance committee to review and revision, and the second one is to the public safety. But I'm open to send everything to the ordinance committee, and they can decide if the public safety part of the report they should take care of it instead of send it to the public safety. But I think the report already said where to send it.
Councilor Zaret?
I'm in agreement with you and Councilor Rist, and I didn't see that yellow text until Councilor Gomez just pointed it out. So it looks like some of the scrutiny as to where to send it has been done, and so I would trust the review of the Ordinance Review Committee to parse out what goes where. I do agree wholeheartedly, both with you, Councilor Coniff, and Councilor Rist, and whoever else said that this should go to the committee. This represents a year's worth of work, and it deserves some sort of action. And it looks like some of that work has been done for us, probably per review of city council rules as to what goes where. So I'm in favor of motions to send them to those two committees. As Councilor Gomez indicated, it's already delineated.
Councilor Derby?
You might hear my dog barking in the background, but I'm fine with it coming to ordinance. And I don't think we have a rule that says we can't send one item to two committees concurrently. So, you know, maybe we can look at sending it to both committees and we each take the piece that is relevant to us. You know, I think that's an easy way to go, but I'm happy to.
And you know, conceivably you could have a joint meeting of both committees and parse it out that way.
That would be a quorum of the council.
And I was just about to say.
Well, I'm on both committees.
Quorum, but
I'm the linchpin there. So like I'm on both committees. So there you go.
Thanks, Eddie. I'll make a motion to send the report.
Hold on. Councilor Gomez, did you have another comment you wanted to make? Okay. No.
I'll make a motion to send the report to both the public safety and the ordinance committees so that they may develop actionable ordinance language.
I'll second that.
Motion is second to send the Ordinance Review Committee final report to both the Public Safety Committee and the Ordinance Committee. Any further discussion? Councilor Zaret.
Wait,
Close,
so
Barb, sorry.
I think I zoned out during that last part. So are you saying that it's going to be a joint hearing or
No,
joint?
we're just sending it to both committees. What you do after that's entirely up to you.
Okay, are we sending the parts that were recommended to each committee, or they're
Both report.
both reports?
As they are. You guys can duke it out.
Okay, great.
All right.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Barbara?
Tom Peak?
Aye.
Dan Rist?
Yes.
Owen Zaret?
Yes.
Peg Coniff?
Yes.
Salem Derby?
Aye.
Omar Gomez?
Aye.
JP Kaczynski?
Yes.
Motion passes. I think we're done. We've done all of the business. I'll take a motion, right, Barb? Anything you're missing?
Yes.
Okay.
So
motion
moved.
done. What did you say, Sam?
I moved to adjourn.
Second.
I say second.
All right. Motion is second. Barbara?
Dan Rist?
Yes.
Owen Zaret?
Mm-hmm.
Peg Coniff?
Yep.
Salem Derby?
Aye.
Omar Gomez?
Yes.
JP Kaczynski?
Yes.
And Tom Peak?
Aye.
All
We'll see
right.
you all tomorrow night.
Say what?
We'll see you all tomorrow night.
Oh, yes. Bye, Barbara.
See you tomorrow night.
Bye, everyone. See ya.
If not, for the
Too
holiday,
late.
Indigenous Peoples' Day.